everyone, Abbas here. Welcome to the first ever devlog for my new game, House of Neverdone, a horror experience inspired by House of Leaves. If you're familiar with the Neverdone record from that book, you'll recognize the idea, a house that's bigger on the inside than the outside. That concept stuck with me, and now I'm finally trying to turn it into a game. The title, House of Neverdone, is a bit of a mashup of House of Leaves and the Neverdone record. I didn't want to make it too on the nose and go with House of Neverdone, so I turned it into Neverdone. A while back, I tried to make a point-and-click game in college, but I had no clue what I was doing. I tried this weird method that was never gonna work. Fast forward to now, and I've learned a lot more, so I'm giving it another shot with better tools and better skills. Side note, if you're wondering why uploads have been quiet, my PC kinda freaked out on me, and I had to completely wipe my drives, which set me back a bit. So, I was working on this project for practice, remembering my failings to make a point-and-click game in the past. So I started with the basics of making a system for clicking. Luckily, Unreal Engine makes this pretty easy. I use a widget component that the player can click, which will cause anything to happen. I actually started with an inventory system for some reason. Clickable items that will add themselves to the player's inventory when you click on them. I haven't even added items to the main map yet, so this was probably a waste of time. And I also need to redo it, since I figured out a better method later. My item method used two blueprints, the item and the clicker, instead of just one blueprint, like everything else does now. The item also uses a structure, which, for those who don't know, is a big thing filled with data, like your item's name, its type, its description. They're super useful, yet I didn't discover their potential until after I graduated college, which I would have taught about them. But next I needed a way for the player to get around. So I used what I learned from making items to make a new object that will teleport the player to a set location when they click on it. But I also wanted the player to be able to step back at any time and go back to the previous area they were in. This was the most challenging part to get right. I tried many things, such as an array of vectors or a system where each room is named and remembers what it's connected to. None of that worked. Eventually, though, I got it working. I eventually settled on another structure, just like the items used. But this one is designed to be used as an array, which is like a big numbered list. This new structure only uses 4 variables. A room ID, which is a name, meaning it holds a set of case-sensitive text, which could be like room 1 or storage room. Room transform, which is a transform. A transform is the combination of the location, rotation, and scale of whatever it is related to. Previous room, which is an integer. An integer is just a number. And finally, is beginning, which is a boolean, which is just a fancy way of saying it's a true or false. Now, how are these all used? Well, each movement object of the level has 2 variables, one public one, the name, and one private one, the transform. The name is just used for keeping things clean, and so I can remember what room it's connected to. The transform is generated whenever the game starts. The game will get the world transform of a camera object that exists to mark where the player will go whenever they click on the object. Whenever the player clicks on one of these objects, the object will tell the player to run a function called move to next room, and also give the player its name and transform. Whenever move to next room is ran, it will first check the player's room data, which contains our array of structures from earlier. We will then start to add a new room to the array using the name and transform from the object. For the previous room, we get the length of the player's room data array length, it just tells you how many items are in that array. It will then subtract the length by 1 and set that as previous room. The reason it has to be subtracted by 1 is that while both length and previous room are integers, length starts at 1 while previous room starts at 0. So each list is the same, but you just need to subtract 1 to get the other. The player also has a variable called current room, which stores the index number of the room they are currently in. This is gotten from our array when we add a new element. So after all that is done, the player finally moves to the transform of the room. So they're finally in that new room. When the player wants to step back though, we need to access this data again. When the player clicks step back, the game will instantly run a function called return to previous room. First, this will check our current room in the array and check if is beginning is true, since the player should not be able to step back if they're in the starting room. That could break things. As long as the current room the player is in is not the start, we get the previous room variable from our room. Then we access our array and get whatever is at the index of our previous room integer. This gives us access to that room's data again, like its transform and name. Using that, we teleport back to the previous room, and then we remove our current room from the array and set current room to have the same value as previous room. This system works pretty much flawlessly. The player can click on these objects and step back to the previous area without any issues. After this, I decorated a bit of the level and added a system that can display some text whenever you hover over something. I also added this PSX filter over the game to make it look low quality and pixelated. Big thanks to CG Dealers on YouTube for their tutorial on how to get that working. I also noticed that my FPS was actually really bad when I was working on this for some reason, so I went and optimized it and made it run really well. I disabled a lot of unnecessary Unreal Engine quality stuff. Since this game is supposed to look old, I don't need ray tracing. With that, you're caught up to speed on my current progress. I have quite a few ideas for this game: crafting, puzzles. Maybe the player won't even be alone in the house next time I talk about this, since this is supposed to be a horror game after all. I'll do my best to keep you all updated. Leave a comment with any ideas or suggestions for this game. See you next time.